Hey, friends. Welcome to Want to Grab Coffee, the podcast for working moms, career driven moms, moms who just can't seem to get to the gym even though they really want to. As you can see, I'm just going to keep it real from the jump here. I had every intention on working out early this morning. I got myself dressed. I made sure I had a good breakfast so I could have energy. And then the day happened. I had lots of meetings starting early. I do work East Coast hours. So we had some early client meetings. And then my kids woke up and the rest is history. So I just finished my workday. I'm probably gonna go head to work out later with them, and they'll be thrilled because they get iPad time, and this, my friends, is what it is to be a working mom who also wants to try and be healthy for her family. So, anyway, this podcast, I'm sure that you heard on the intro episode, but this is just my way of creating community for moms who work and are career driven, who are leaders in their field or are leading a team or in some kind of mentor type relationship. I don't know that we talk enough about the topic that I would love to cover today, and that is specifically downshifting careers. And I think that there is a lot of intentional downshifting that is happening in the corporate world, but just in general with working moms. And so I want to talk about that today. I recently did it, probably about a year ago, and I don't regret it. I don't regret most of it. And we'll talk about those things though. But I also have been collecting just questions that my friends have been asking me, who are also working moms and considering downshifting. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of just go through the questions, reflect a bit on why I decided to downshift. There will be a part 2 and part 3 of this. It'll be a little mini series, because there's a lot of things. There's things that you should consider if you're gonna be downshifting, like very practical things to take and reflect on either yourself or with your spouse or your partner. And then just a follow-up reflection of what it's been like for me after downshifting this year. So all of that to say, let's jump in, grab your coffee. If you got that afternoon coffee, which I wish I did, grab it. If this is early morning for you, I hope you're drinking something warm um, to fill that belly and wake up your mind. But let's get into it. All right. We're talking about downshifting today. We're reflecting on some things that my friends have asked me about how I made the decision to downshift my career. And really, I'm just pulling up my notes here because I want to make sure that I can give you a full picture and maybe answer some questions that you might have about downshifting. So let me just start here. Um, when did you know that you needed to downshift? Let me just say, I am very driven by success and I'm driven by making money. I love knowing that I can do my job well and overperform at it. After making the switch from being a classroom teacher in kindergarten, first, second grade, moving into a sales role, account management role that had a sales aspect to it was absolutely mind blowing to me because it was like, wait a second. What do you mean the things that I work hard at are now going to be rewarded with money? I like this. Blew my mind. Oh, you have to hit this goal and we'll pay you extra if you hit that goal, or if you go over that goal, we'll pay you more. What? I don't just have to hit this specific learning goal for these kids because that's my job and then I just get a same salary no matter what and maybe like a pizza party at the end of the year. Moving from education to the corporate world just blew my mind. And so I became even more career oriented driven, I guess you could say, because a lot of times in corporate companies and especially in startups, there are these roles that you can just keep climbing the ladder. Like in the education world, your choices are teacher. I don't know what happens after classroom teacher if there's like a team lead, but I don't think you get paid more. I never stuck around long enough to find out because I got paid 3x my salary when I went to account management. And so it was like, that or you go to admin, like you're a principal, and then from principal, you go to district admin. And I need to say there is nothing wrong with taking those roles. I'm talking about me as an individual, my leadership, my what motivates me as a professional is selling things, supporting customers, and then selling them because of a need that they have. And so all of that to say, I was very driven and I worked very hard to climb the ladder. I was at a home design tech company, startup for a few years, and then I moved over to health tech where I spent the majority of my career. Worked as an individual contributor in a notoriously tough territory in tri-state and really like got the skill set and the tough outer skin and all of the things, all of those cliche things, to then move up as into a senior position and then moved into the enterprise world. So I was dealing with accounts that were maybe one or two users, maybe a handful, 5, 10, and then moved into enterprise, which was our very large customers and just growing and scaling them. And that was very exciting to me. I was super successful there and took a lot of my accounts from a couple providers and threatening to cancel to, over 20,000 providers for one of my accounts. So that was super exciting to me because I had the skill set between account management and selling and just like really having an even mix of the two. My manager and VP at the time said, "We want to build this team after you. And eventually we need a manager." So I was able to then use that skill set to build a team of just me and another person to eventually managing a team of 6. So I scaled that team from just me and one other person, individual contributors, to then hiring 5 others. All of this was happening while I was pregnant with my third and about to go on maternity leave. And at the time, I had just me and 2 reps. And our company was also going through a merger. So lots going on. And I was unaware of the merger. Towards the end of my working time, ready to go on mat leave, I had this really weird, super, super weird thing happen with my health. I 7 months pregnant, 6 or 7 months pregnant. One night I woke up, I couldn't stop throwing up. I was super dizzy. I could not walk by myself and my eyes were moving and I couldn't stop them and could not keep my eyes open because I felt super dizzy. It was like vertigo. My husband rushed me to the hospital and we had all these things checked out and they just chalked it up to, baby's fine, you're just dehydrated. Meanwhile, my eyes won't stop moving back and forth very, very rapidly and I feel nauseous and I cannot stay balanced. I cannot walk by myself. I cannot go anywhere by myself. It was awful. It was terrifying. And so I go from being a mom of 2 and having this very successful career, mostly on my computer, right? I'm working at home. I'm pregnant. I'm growing a third baby. This is in the height of COVID. So I am, you know, wondering what's happening all around me, but also like, did I get some kind of sickness and I just don't have all of the symptoms? I had no idea what was going on. We went to many doctors, a lot of neurological doctors, checking out my eyes, my brain, my everything, and tried a lot of different things for vertigo. It didn't help. And I ended up I guess I had vertigo. I had in this back part of your brain. Of course, I'm forgetting it now that I'm talking about it out loud with a microphone in front of my face. But I had some kind of issue back here where I had migraine, like a really terrible migraine, and the movement of my eyes, all of that mixed together was something happened. They actually never really diagnosed it. But when we looked at scans of my brain, everything was fine. There was no tumors, there was nothing. Like, thank God. I'm so thankful for that. But what they said was just, everything looks fine. And the only thing we see on your brain is stress, is this white substance which indicates to us stress. And so I remember thinking, like, as I'm laying in bed, not able to open my eyes, not able to participate in my family's life, literally listening to them live life without me, laying in my bed, pregnant. I can't watch shows, I can't scroll on my phone. I can listen to things, but my curtains are dark because I have this awful pain, like an ongoing migraine, and life was pretty bleak. I was afraid that I would pass and leave my husband with my 2 kids and potentially a preemie baby. I was afraid the doctors weren't catching whatever might have been wrong with me. It was a lot of stress on my body. And at one point, they had me do an MRI of my whole body. 2 times I had them stop the MRI because as I was going under the tube, whatever you wanna call it, my skin felt like it was burning, and I was terrified. I mean, I could feel my skin crawling. I was terrified it was going to hurt my baby, and I know there's a lot of science. Like, don't come at me with the science, guys. Like, this is like when you have experienced this much and you get to the place where you're afraid that you're going to die and your baby is going to be harmed somehow, like, yeah, I get it, science, but like logic is out the window. I'm freaking terrified. Why is my body responding this way? 2 times. Like the first time you pulled me through, I am doing breathing exercises. I've done MRIs plenty of times in my life. I'm an athlete. Like I've hurt my shoulder, I've hurt whatever. I am going into this tube with a baby in my body that I'm trying to protect from all of the stress that I just experienced, but also whatever is happening with these waves here for imaging. And first time I had him, I felt it. I was like, my skin feels like it's burning. It feels like it's crawling. He's like, it shouldn't be doing that. Let's try again. Go back out, come back in again, immediately press the button, get me out of here. This is fucking terrifying. And he said, okay, let's take you to another machine and see if that helps. We went to another machine and I'm laying there and went in, no skin tingles, nothing this time around, and just silently sobbed the entire MRI and couldn't help but think like, what the hell? How did I miss all of these signs that I was stressed? I didn't know that I was. Like, at the end of it, it was like stress induced, hormone induced, who knows, a mixture of all of those things. How did I not catch my stress? My stress was so deeply hidden within me. And I guess you could say it was probably outward too. Like I gained a lot of weight with this last pregnancy, but it was so deep within me. I didn't catch it. I didn't know that it was there. There were no other real, like, outward signs that I was super stressed. I just was keeping it inside, and so that was, like, the beginning of my wake-up call. We had financial goals that we wanted to hit with this job. We wanted to buy a house. We were on track for that finally. We had no tuition payments for our kids. They were going to a public school now, all of these things. It was, like, just perfectly lining up, and then bam, I got hit with a rift. Man, I have so many things to say about that. If you ever get me in person, I'd be happy to chat with you about it. But one of the biggest things that killed me as a working mom who was successful and doing really well in her position was being told that I was making too much money because I was successful because my team was overperforming 300% quarter after quarter. One of my individual contributors was overperforming 600%. So I was being punished for doing really well or what felt like being punished. And then I was told, I know what this must be like for you, because you have kids. No, you don't. I have 3 children. You have none. Um, I'm married. Um, I'm I am the major breadwinner in this home. And this was my whole sense of identity. I had like built so much product knowledge and understanding around how to support our customers, and that's why I was doing well. But I'm actually really thankful for it because it was like a forced in the greater scheme of my life, it was a forced sidelining to just be like, "You're not going in the right direction health-wise, like, you have got to, like, scale it back." Um, having a riff and then just having the luxury of being able to say, "All right, what do I want to do next?" Not everybody has that luxury. A lot of people have to jump right back into a job, and it was not easy for us financially to take that big of a hit, but I got to say, "Okay, what do I want to do with my career? Do I wanna keep working full time?" And at the time, I was so angry and bitter. I was like, I'm gonna go get a VP job somewhere. I'm gonna go find a VP job and just kill it and use my skill set well and show everybody that I can do this. I have 3 kids. I'm a working mom. I can totally do this. And in a different time of my life, probably, but not at this specific time and space. So I really started reflecting like, what do I want to do? How do I want to be present for my family? And so I reached out to a company that I was familiar with. I had contacts at, ended up working for them. And thought, you know what, this job is a step back for me. This is a great downshift. It's just like one step back to individual contributor. It'll be great. I know this company like the back of my hand. Um, it's just going to be so simple for me to plug in and plug out. It's half of the salary that I'm making right now, but that's all right. I'll take a hit. It won't be for forever. And we can definitely make it work. We've paid off all of our, debts and things. Like we're in a really good spot. So I get to this new job and it was nothing like I thought it would be. I was clearly not wanted there. And the position was, I think, held for somebody else within the company. So I was quickly pushed out. Which, if you are an overperformer or a perfectionist or someone who has done really well, I would imagine it's not everyone, and that's okay. But I just need you to hear, like, what a trip that was. I've seen it happen to other people where they've been pushed out of a company. I've seen it happen in my own company when on a different team than mine, right? And for legal purposes, I was not pushed out. It was not a good fit. Okay. Um, so allegedly I was pushed out. But anyway, I what I'll say to you is it was wild to experience. It did a number on my self-confidence. It completely ruined me. Um, and I just was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm missing I took this job where I took half of my pay because I believed in this company so much. Red flag number 1. Number 2, I just wanted to have a job and something I could plug in and plug out of. I was not wanted there. Okay. So you can't plug in and plug out of somewhere you're not wanted. And then number 3, I was missing important things to my kids. And that was what broke my back. That's what broke the camel's back. It was, I'm so sorry, honey. I can't make your spring performance. Like these spring performances are nothing special. Okay. We all know that. They're singing songs that they're just regurgitating. They're not even trying to sing well. Like, they just want to see us there in the crowd. That is important to me. And I started realizing with this new job, I'm missing out on these things because I'm worried that my manager who doesn't like me is going to be upset that I took PTO and take my job. Well, guess what? She took my job anyways, and I miss my kids' stuff. So that also was a big turning point for me. It was like, what am I even doing? I'm killing myself over this job. I'm gonna go right back into that spiral of whatever health issue I had because the stress is so big right now. My stress became outward. I was snippy with my kids. I was angry. I was prickly with my husband. I gained like 20 pounds because of the stress that the new job was putting on me. It was too much. So it took some time after that one, after I wasn't a good fit, and really reflected like, what do I want to do? I always wanted to make a podcast. And so I just kind of tinkered with that a little bit. I worked with my friend who's a business coach and kind of dreamed with her about what that would look like. Um, and then I also just kind of asked around friends who were hiring, and I had a friend hiring at her company. Again, I took another 50% pay cut. So I am making definitely not as much as I used to, but I took 2 steps back now at this point and was an individual contributor with a very small book of business and a flexible schedule. And this company practices what they preach. They value family, they value employees. And so while I might not be making money, the culture then lines up with where I'm at in my life. And that was a home run for me. So what was the moment I decided? The moment I decided was when I was so stressed that I was terrified of going back to the place that I would be laying in my bed, unable to participate in my life, potentially dying because of some kind of stress induced issue. And I just thought like, It's not even worth it. I'm missing out on my children's life, on my husband's life. Like, time is so precious to me. Being present in my kid's life is so precious to me. I need to be there. Side note, if you were wondering what happened and why my eyes aren't moving anymore, I went through 2 months of intensive 3 times a week therapy to retrain my brain. And so if you look really close and stare at my eyes, don't do it because you can't see it from there. My eyes still have movement. They still move. I actually can't sit in bed while my husband is scrolling through Netflix trying to find something to watch. I can't do it. I have to close my eyes because my eyes have trouble tracking. On nystagmus, by the way, I remembered it. But it was extreme nystagmus where my eyes just wouldn't stop moving, and I literally had to train my brain for months. At the end of my pregnancy, at the end of my 3rd baby pregnancy, where I gained more weight than my first 2 babies, and I was just huge. Like, I had to do balancing activities, I had to do all kinds of stuff where, like, I had to close my eyes and try and balance, and, it was wild. That's probably another episode for another time. All right, so that was my point. I talked a little bit about my thought process, but maybe I'll touch on that a little bit more. Like, how did you handle the financial implications? What did your family think? What's your thought process? Here's my thought process off the bat. When I was ripped from my first company, I was just angry and didn't understand why it happened. Felt like I was being punished, and have moved on since, but was really upset, and I was like, "I'm gonna show them." And then I realized the market for jobs especially in tech is trash right now. It's a bloodbath. It's really, really bad. And so was humbled pretty quickly by that. Interviewed for a couple management positions, but then realized like maybe I'll just be an IC again. I can make more money there and it'll be more fun. Maybe it'll bring me more joy. Second time was, whoa, what the beep just happened to me? I need some time to process this and to de-stress. And so, honestly, my thought process then was like, I will figure this out. I will keep looking, but I'm not going to be on LinkedIn every single day. I'm not going to be banging down my friends' doors trying to get jobs from them. Like, I am just going to exercise and eat healthy. And my goal was to do that 4 to 5 days a week. And I did. And I got myself physically back to a better place. I got myself mentally back to a better place. And I spent the couple months of summer, it happened in June, couple months of summer with my kids, which was so beautiful to just like decompress and go to therapy and take care of my body and spend time with friends and ground myself back into career wise, like speaking to people who have worked with me for multiple years, who know my work ethic, who know my skill set, who know my drive, and just letting them speak back into me, speak that confidence back into me. And I will say to you, it has been a year since that, and I would say I'm probably 75%, maybe 80% on a good day back to my normal self where I was prior to that whole situation. It really took a toll on me. So my mental space was like, I cannot miss my kids' stuff. These years are going by really fast. They need me to show up, and I want to show up. It is so important to me to prioritize that. So as I was decompressing with friends and talking to them about, where have you been? One of my friends, Casey Calkins with C2 at Partners, her and I started meeting to talk about my idea of starting a podcast and a community for moms, working moms specifically. And she's also on her own little journey. She had some serious health issues. She was working for a major SaaS company and specifically took a step back. Well, I guess more to the side. She's insanely successful, insanely smart, and she started a coaching career with her skill set, and she's coaching new managers, specifically in sales. She's incredible, but she also helped me to dream for my business. And so I just spent some time with her dreaming about what would that look like for me. We are both entrepreneurs at heart, so we really enjoy those conversations, and we had a lot of coffee chats where we're at in life, where our kids are at in life. She's one of my core friends, who I've called all throughout my mothering journey, my career mom journey, who we've cried on the phone together. This is so hard. Oh God, so many conversations in my car crying to her about how hard it is. about strategizing how to show up better. I specifically remember her and I having a conversation where she was like, Halloween is such a rough time for sales leaders, sales moms. Like, I'm going to be late to trick or treating with my kids because I'm trying to close out this deal last minute. And like, that just broke my heart for her. And we've had so many of those conversations of, just being a working mom, balancing it all. And it's really hard to balance it all, showing up for sports games and all the things. But anyway, her and I had a lot of conversations, and a mutual friend had the position was mentioning that just had a better work life balance, and she's like, "You should really just consider it. It's gonna be a hit probably to you financially, but if you guys are in the space where you can handle it, then I would encourage you to do it." So we'll go into that next episode, but what I really want to talk about is the transition. Just like another one of my friends asked me this question. What's the practical and emotional reality of going from being a leader back to an individual contributor? So, for example, I wrote some notes here and we'll talk about this. The ego adjustment, learning new skills, adapting to different expectations. Okay, ego adjustment. When you go from making six figures to making five figures, there is a significant ego adjustment that needs to happen. And for me, I realized just because I am taking these steps back does not mean that I don't have drive or ambition. It actually just looks different now. And so for me, my drive and ambition was more geared towards spending time with my kids. If I can get my work done at this job that I intentionally took steps back in, I can share my successful tips and tricks, and then contribute in that way to my team. But I can also just clock out when I'm done and be completely done. And I'm not answering emails while I'm rocking my kid to sleep. I'm not even worrying about checking emails on the weekend or after hours. Like that to me, that payoff was exponentially more valuable. I'm not missing their jogathon for 20 minutes or whatever. Showing up for my kids, that was a big payoff. But the ego of making money and not having as many opportunities to make money or at the scale of which I was making money before, that was and still is really hard. I love making money and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like it's not coming from a greedy place. And I think that a lot of times as women, we're fed this lie that like if you like making money, like you must just be like a skeezy salesperson or like a really bad mom or whatever. Like I would argue the opposite. Like I enjoy making money. I have the skill set to do that. Why not? Like why wouldn't I try to do that? Because I can benefit my children, my husband, my relationship with him. We can travel. We can do a lot of things. I can give money to my kids' school. I can give it to people less fortunate. I can do a lot with more money, and that's what I enjoy doing. I wanna host dinners at my house and not worry about what am I gonna cook for everyone, like, what sounds good tonight? Steak and surf and turf. We don't eat surf and turf, but you know what I mean? Like, I just don't wanna pinch pennies over that. I wanna enjoy people's company and not think twice about the money that I have at my disposal. Should we be budget conscious? Of course. Like, let's be wise with our money. Let's be good stewards of the finances that we are given. Right. But the ego for me, I felt if I made more money, I was more important. If I had a higher title, I was more important. And now I know showing up for my kids and making enough money for us to get by, that's most important. Because when I look back on my life, I want to be able to say, my kid knew I was there. They could say someday during my eulogy, whatever, call it dark if you want, but I know that my kids will be able to say, my mom was always there. She always made a point to come and see whatever we were doing, to support us, to come to my practice, to do whatever. She was there to read me books at night. She helped me learn how to cook. She included me in this, like that is so important to me. And that was a major, major driver. So I check my ego often. I have to constantly keep that ego in check because I know, again, my ambition is still there. It just looks different. And someday I can ramp it right back up and get to a point where I can make more money. And that's not a problem. It's just the opportunity to be able to get there. Right. But when I'm talking with friends and people who know my career journey, it's really hard, especially with the ones that I know are super successful, not to feel like, damn, I'm missing out. I have constant FOMO. So, yes, the answer is yes for me. Learning new skills and adapting to different expectations. All right. When you come from a toxic environment or an environment where you are not welcome, you have to learn a lot of new skills, mostly coping. But really, adapting to a new process, learning new companies, of course, when you go to a new job, like those kind of skill sets. I also had to learn how to budget better. Still not good at it. I had to take things back on our plate, like not having the house cleaner come as often, which is a really big freaking bummer for me because I hate cleaning. And, not buying as many luxury items and things that I really, want but don't actually need. That was more of an adjustment for me. Learning new skill sets. Yeah, it comes with a new job. And I'm sure there's others that I'll probably think about as I'm going through, but those are the major ones that stick out to me. All right. Payoffs. I've I mean, we've talked about this time with my kids, but also more creative endeavors. I've been able to do like this dream about this podcast, write episodes, take messy action, with recording some or asking friends and putting myself out there, asking friends if they want to be on the podcast, that kind of stuff. By the time this launches, hopefully I'll have a lot more episodes in my arsenal. But, just had a lot more time to say, what do I want this community to look like? What do I want to speak about? Who could bring value to this community? Because I know that there's just such a lack for support with working moms. And like also just there's so much seriousness about career and doing it all and whatever. Like, can we just be moms who work and who are good at our jobs, but also like enjoy being silly and weird and dumb sometimes and like um you know that's what this community is for. Like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of serious conversations that happens when you are raising children, but I feel like let's just like have fun together. No, okay, maybe it's just me. Lessons and advice. What is something you would tell someone considering a similar move? I will leave you with this: if you are considering this, you need to talk to your partner and let them know first and foremost. If you don't have a partner, you ain't gotta tell nobody. It's you, baby. Sometimes I wish that that was me. Sometimes I wish that I was the only one who was considering it because then you don't have to, like, if you're a risk taker, right? I tend to be more of a risk taker. You can do that, but you've got kids. You've got someone else to consider in this journey. Um, and so I would talk to them. You got to figure out your finances. How long do you want to be scaled back for? What might it look like for you to try to scale back up? What are some ways that you're learning how to manage your stress now if stress is your driver or whatever your driver is? How are you working to resolve that or be better about that, right? What are some things that you can start doing now to help with that? What is your intention for that? Do you want to scale back because you have a bad manager? Like maybe you just need to find a different job. If you want to scale back because you don't like your industry anymore, maybe you just need to find something that's like adjacent that you can take a small step to a different direction and then that takes you on a different path, right? So there's lots of different things that you can consider. Again, we'll go into it in another episode, but what I would say is if you're considering downshifting, there's so much beauty in it, far past the financial losses that you will incur and the ego hits that you will take. Something else I would consider if you are talking about downshifting, tap into your inner circle. And something we'll talk about a lot on this podcast is your inner circle. My inner circle is so precious to me. It is made up of people that I respect in business, I respect in life, and I respect in their relationship. And so those people are the ones that are allowed to speak into my life. Anybody else outside of it, you can have an opinion, but it doesn't concern me. Am I still very much like worried about what people think of me? Yeah, I was kind of raised that way. But the way that I am hardwired, especially with ADHD, I have FOMO for everything, and I take rejection pretty hard, and that can look in a lot of different ways. So for me, one of my biggest reminders that I have to tell myself is this criticism, constructive or otherwise, coming from someone in my inner circle? And if it's not, How much weight do I give it? Saw Taylor on the New Heights podcast recently saying, think of your time as expensive. It's a luxury. Not everyone gets to have it. I want you to think about who those people are on your inner circle, the ones that surround you and support you and speak life into you and tell you things when it's hard, and you don't want to hear it, who will be truthful and forthcoming with you, who will point out things you might be missing. All of those things, those are your inner circle. Anything outside of that, I'm not interested. And I hope that you wouldn't be either. If it's not coming from your inner circle, who cares? Like, I don't even see those people anymore. I don't have to interact with them daily. I don't have to follow them on Instagram if I don't want to. I don't have to look at them on LinkedIn if I don't want to. Like, I have so much control over who speaks into my life, and their opinion of me is none of my business. It's theirs. So if you're not in my inner circle, your opinion of me is none of my business. It's yours. I feel sad for you if you feel like you need to judge me for this choice that I made for my family. But if I could even influence anybody who's thinking about doing this and help and hold your hand along the way, you may decide that a downshift is not for you right now, but you just want to consider it. That's totally fine. I respect that. And I think it's actually really healthy. Maybe you're really considering a downshift and you need to make it happen. Maybe you're in a situation where your health is compromised, like mine was. Let me hold your hand and help you with this. And if it's not me who is giving you that constructive thought process or feedback, that's fine. I get it. We're probably not friends in real but I hope that I would act as a guide for you to think about things maybe you wouldn't consider, or really actually just like take a third party of someone who you don't know and think about it with less weight, right? Sometimes when people challenge me for things, it's harder for me to hear from my inner circle than it would be from my outer circle, right? It's harder for me to digest. I, by nature, am someone who would avoid something like that coming from someone I know well. And the people that I've chosen to have in my inner circle, I can't get away from that, and they know that, and that's why they're part of my inner circle. I don't wanna avoid it and never ever touch those feelings, those reflections, whatever, because I know I'll be a better person for it on the other side. If you're considering downshifting, tune in to next week's episode. I have a resource for you to just kind of, like, journal some questions. Maybe you can start thinking about those too. Write it down, put it in a drawer or something, stick it somewhere, and then come back to it later. Put it on a Google Doc or something where you're keeping all your thoughts. But typically, when things come up for us, when we're listening to something and a random thought comes up and then we say, "Oh, where'd that come from? That's weird." It's something that's been hidden deep down inside of you. So don't ignore it. But anyway, that was intro to downshifting for sure. Let's talk again next week or in episode 2. I hope you enjoyed your coffee. I hope you got your laundry folded. I hope that you got some sun outside today. And I'll see you next episode. Bye.